Hey, what's up guys? My name's Michael Westbrook. I'm fortunate enough to call myself a full-time musician. A lot of the times that means I'm out on the road as a multi-instrumentalist or playing on sessions, but when I have the time, I make content here on YouTube. So thanks for watching. Today, we're gonna further a conversation that I started a few videos back about practice. In that video, I talked about how I practice, how that's shifted over the years, and what I try to accomplish with my practice time. Today, we're going to dive into a more specific exercise, something that I have been working on and something that I think will benefit you no matter where you're at, whether you're a beginner or a more advanced player. I think working on this will not only develop your fingers, but also develop your ear. It'll get you hearing new and fresh ideas. So before we get started, I want to talk about a couple of people that kind of inspired this video or inspired some of the ideas in this video. The first of which being Adam Levy. If you're not familiar with him, he's an amazing guitarist. He's played with a lot of different people. He makes videos here on YouTube as well. But then he also has a book called String Theories. And in that book, he has this idea of we not only need to warm up our hands, but we also need to warm up our ears. When we first pick up a guitar, our ears kind of need to get acclimated to hearing different sounds, hearing different intervals or scales or chords. And so he talks about this idea of warming up our ear. And I think that that is a strong element of what we're going to be talking about today. Just kind of getting our ear used to hearing different things and used to hearing different ideas. The other person would be Jed Hughes. I've talked about him in a previous video. And he talks about this idea of when you find new concept or new sounds that you want to explore, that he really just sits with them. He kind of tries them out in a lot of different ways. And again, this concept really applies to what we're talking about today. So if you want more on this idea, definitely go seek out both of those guys, not only for their ideas around this, but just in general. They're amazing guitarists and seem like great people too. Adam Levy, Jed Hughes. This exercise starts by focusing on drones. Now, I've talked about this with slide playing, that playing with a drone is a great way to work on your tuning when you're playing slide guitar, but I also think we can use this in other ways. Now, whether you use it, like a looper or something like that, or there are also drones here on YouTube where it's just droning one note, a cello drone, or more of an ambient drone. Playing against a set tone can really help you develop your ear and work on new ideas. So for instance, I do this a lot by just playing an open string. Say I want to take my open A string and I'm going to play an A. Now we can start very simply and then we can get more complex. Maybe initially we just have this open A going and then we're playing different, major scale notes. Now, obviously, some of those notes are going to sound more relaxed or sound, more or less dissonant. And I think that's the idea of where we're talking about warming up our ear. A major 7 is a half step away from our root note, right? So that might initially sound dissonant. Now, in the context of a chord, it can sound really beautiful and sound just has this very nice sound. But by itself, if our ear just isn't really used to it, it can sound really dissonant, like this. So that's where I'm talking about. We're kind of training our ear or warming up our ear to hear these different intervals and to hear different ideas. Now we can take this even further. We can start using double stops. We can start using full-on chords. Say you have a harmonized major scale, and we're just using our kind of basic chords that we'd find in there. You could do that against this A drone as well. again, we're getting used to hearing those different notes, those different chords against that root. Now, we've just been talking about major, but this is where it gets really interesting, because really any note is fair game, right? Whether we're in a minor mode or we're in some other mode, getting our ear used to how these different notes sound against a tonic can be really helpful and can really help you explore other ideas. So now I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to play against that open A, but I'm going to play some other notes. And initially they might sound weird, they might sound off, but then as you experiment with it and as you play more around it, you can kind of hear where they lead to. They're just different, interesting colors. Now, again, we can go even further and start putting different chords, right? So experiment with placing these other chords, any chord really, over this A and see how it sounds. Let's say I'll start with an A, we'll maybe go to a G, maybe we'll go to an F sharp major chord. Let's see what that sounds like. Now, of course, I'm really just kind of putting in random chords there. I started with the A to a G to an F sharp major, and I kind of was trying a B flat chord or a B flat 9 chord, moving around to all these different areas. But essentially what I'm doing is I'm experimenting, I'm trying these different notes, these different chords over that A, and it's getting my ear used to hearing these different things, but I'm also hearing where they lead to. And I find for me, when I do this, when I kind of warm up my ear or I get used to hearing these things differently like this, not only do I come up with different ideas and start hearing different ideas, but also when I hear these different types of sounds in recordings, it helps me identify them more easily, right? My ear has heard these sounds before. My fingers have played these sounds before, and so it makes it a lot easier to figure out what's going on if there's some strange inversion happening on a recording, or maybe someone's using a certain kind of mode or something. Again, whether you're a beginner or more advanced player, start with what you know. So maybe you're just starting with that major scale, maybe you're starting with a minor scale. But even just mixing the two major and minor scales or different chords can really help stretch your ear, really get you used to hearing some new things.